Hey, it's Marissa. Today I am joined again with Ryan. We had so much fun last time filming a video, so we decided to sit down and chat with you again. Today we're talking about interviewing brokerages and just how to choose a brokerage in general, any advice that we've picked up along the way. I guess we could start with the interview process. Any questions in particular that you think should be asked?
What's interesting is how you basically have to kind of approach a brokerage. You know, it's not, I don't typically find that they're out there like you would find like a job posting from any random company per se. So like on LinkedIn or you know, wherever you go to look for jobs. But I think you kind of have to just reach out to a place where you either know somebody that already works there or, I mean, personally me, I Googled real estate agencies and kind of worked my way down the list. Obviously there's big names out there, you know, as far as brokerages are concerned, and then there's not so big ones. So you kind of have to pick your poison. Yeah. As far as maybe poison's the wrong word.
They're all bad. Just
yeah. You know, and what you'll learn down the road is it's kind of, you know, the business is the business. I think whatever roof you're under, exactly. It's a matter of the support that you find with the brokerage you end up going with. And I think that's important because you have just as much to get out of the support or the brokerage you're with as, you know, you're going to contribute to that business as well. So.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think it really comes down to the people there. I think about that all the time, how we have our own separate independent businesses. And like really the office is just like a building that we do things out of. We have office meetings, you know, we get together, we come here for advice, come here to work. But at the end of the day, it's really all the people that you work with. The other thing that you mentioned that I really wanted to like kind of hit home on because I've had like people in my life ask me like, oh, why aren't you working for this company? Like you'll know all the big names. If you don't know a ton about real estate, like I'm sure you can still name like 3 big real estate companies. And I think my biggest thing would be to not be drawn towards those just for that fact. You can definitely still interview there and still kind of like get your feet in the water and see if you like it. I feel like a lot of people are like, why aren't you working at this company? Why are you working at like that small of a company? Like I've gotten asked that before. And I just have to restate to them that the company culture here is so great and it's like exactly where I need to be. So don't let that sway your decision by having like that name recognition. It's not always everything.
Right. I'm not a marketing expert by any means, and I'm learning a lot now being an independent business owner, you know, what goes into marketing per se. So just because you have a big name brokerage behind you isn't automatically mean that you're going to just be, you know, doing deal after deal after deal just because you've got that big name behind you. It's really about what you put into those efforts to, as Kevinism number 1 in this video will be the star of your own show, right? So no matter what logos on our clothing, it's really up to us to get ourselves out there. And I don't think the brokerage name per se is really what's going to boost you out there.
Yeah. I think that too, it comes down to everyone has different needs. If you're a seasoned agent, you might be able to handle a different company rather than if you're a new agent, you might need more support. Unfortunately, there's not like a one size fits all. We're not here to like talk about specific brokerages or anything like that. Just addressing what your needs are and your wants and like really coming to terms with who you are as a person. Because I'm pretty introverted and I always wanted to work from home. I didn't want to have to be in the office like on a mandatory basis. And I just needed certain things that other people might not need. I don't do well with tough love. So if someone's like, you just need to do better, you just need to, you know, hit your goals this month and everything like that, that's not what's gonna get me there. Like it's sitting down and like having a nice conversation and just working through problems together, which really helps me and motivates me. Obviously that's why I'm here, because it's a good fit.
So here's a question for you. You just got licensed yesterday. How or what steps did you employ to know who to go out and quote unquote interview?
I know you just gave me a hypothetical, but I want to talk about the reality first, and then I'll go back to maybe like what I did. or what I would do in that situation. So I actually interviewed here before I had my license. My cousin works here, and I just felt comfortable with like having that person that I knew. It was kind of like my way in, and like she kind of gave me a heads up about certain things, kind of like guided me through the process. I think it's super important if you can find someone in the industry or like kind of have a mentor to, you know, bounce questions off of. I interviewed with Kevin before I even took my exam, and he was kind of there, like supporting me, like cheering me on. He's like, what did he say? Tests are easy, tests are fun. That's what he kept saying to me. And I was like, okay, because I was pretty worked up about it. But, you know, then I passed my test, and right away, like even before I had my license, I decided that I wanted to work here. And then once I finally got licensed, I just came in and did the paperwork. That's why I definitely wanted to have you on for this video, because I can't really speak to being at different brokerages and interviewing different brokerages. Part of me feels like I should have, but also like I've been here for almost 2 years now, and I have no intentions of leaving anytime soon. So I really feel confident that I made the right decision. That was kind of my journey. You can interview brokerages before you even get licensed. I mean, it's a really different process. I literally brought my resume to Kevin, and he was like, I don't want this.
Yeah.
Like, tell me about your life. He's like, I'm like, so where do you want to start? And he's like, I don't know, tell me everything. So I'm like, okay, like it's just very different, especially if you're coming from the corporate world, which I think a lot of people do. Just kind of be aware that it's not like that. And I kept having my cousin tell me, you're interviewing them. They're not interviewing you, because they want you more than, you know, maybe you want to be there. So like it's really kind of in your favor, and you shouldn't be worked up or nervous about it at all. I would say that if I did get licensed yesterday and then I was going to go out and do this process, I think I would have done something similar, but I think I would have interviewed more brokerages. And that was the other thing. I had no idea where to start. Honestly, I was like the general public like 2 years ago. And I was like, I don't know any places, you know, like, you know, the big names, and that's about it. And I knew that I didn't want to work for some of those big names.
Right.
So it was like, where else do I go? But like there really are so many different places, especially in the Fox Valley. So I think Googling would be a great way to get a list going. I don't know. You can do as many as you want, but I can't see doing more than like 5. Like,
right.
I feel like everything would kind of blend together at that point. Don't be afraid to take notes while you're there too. I came in with like a whole slew of questions and made sure that I asked every single one of them. I think writing down a list of like your top 3 to 5, and then going to the interview, kind of reflecting on your thoughts, and really being like true to yourself, feeling like, is this somewhere where I want to be? Do I feel comfortable here, or is it like nerve-wracking? And that was the other thing, like going into a completely new industry and having 0 experience. I was like, I need someone to hold my hand. I need someone to make me feel safe and comfortable, and that's what this place was.
I think that's a huge point there when you think about how you kind of have to do the approach on what brokerage you're going to end up with. And a lot of things going into those conversations, you know, and I'll selfly admit too, it was the same, it's blind. Like, I don't even know what to ask, you know? So some of the things you might want to, if you're about to start talking with different brokerages to find out if they're a great fit for you or not, would be, you know, what kind of support is offered to you. But honestly, again, you are your own independent business owner, whether, you know, no matter what brand you're wearing. Going at it alone without any type of support, it's dangerous, it's risky, and, you know, you don't want to get lost in the shuffle based on size and notoriety and things of that nature. So find out for sure what support is offered to you, and then ask maybe even a step further what evidence of that support they can give to you to show that they're not just saying, you know, once you're on, it's going to be great, and you find out the hard way that it's not. Another thing, and this is kind of like, honestly, it's like car shopping or grocery shopping, you know, what fees? Because one thing that I have learned is that there's fees involved with whatever company you do end up at. And as a part of those fees, what do you get out of those? You know, they seem to be relatively close in monthly price, but then again, there's a lot of variation on what's included in those fees. For example, one of the things that I find to be very important in the monthly fee we pay here is that error and omission insurance. That's not something that I have to go out and search for or pay for on my own. It's part of the monthly brokerage fee that we pay. So what's included in that, so you know what you're investing into at that point in time as well.
Yeah, for sure. And it's not here, but I feel like in some brokerages I've heard where they make you pay like after a closing instead of like a monthly fee. So just kind of figuring out what the fees are. I know there's like sometimes like a desk fee too. I have a whole list of questions here. So
Perfect.
We have, is there a desk fee? Is there a monthly fee and what is covered? So we already talked about that. Do you provide signage? So the for sale sign itself, the sign riders, and then any other riders like under contract or sold. I kind of found out the hard way. You know, you have your listing up and then you're like, oh, where's my picture? Where's my number on top? You got to get your own sometimes, and sometimes they don't even get the for sale sign for you. So just kind of be aware of what they actually offer and order ahead of time. So, you know, if your listing goes up and then you're like, oh crap, I need to buy sign riders, those might not be there until like you have an accepted offer or you're like 2 days away from closing. So make sure you have all of those right off the bat. Build a sign is my favorite one for signs. Do you have any preferred one?
Believe it or not, I just bought generic ones off of Amazon, the ones that just say sold or, you know, under contract or whatnot. Locally, I have used Allegra on College Avenue.
Nice.
So I always encourage, if at any time you can support local business, to do so. And I've also used Fox Valley Stamp and Sign, which is out on Airport Road, Menasha as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So signs, what are your commission splits? They should tell you that up front.
They should, but what I've learned is that's also like shrouded in secrecy, depending on who you ask. If you ask another agent at a different brokerage, they're not going to tell you. They're just not going to tell you. They're going to say that varies by person or that varies by, but we're not at liberty to discuss. One thing that I have learned recently as well is once you're recognized as a producer out in the area, people kind of come out of the woodwork and magically want to talk to you.
Interesting.
Right? So they'll be a little more forthcoming with those numbers as they try to steal you.
Yeah.
I don't know a better way to put that, but you know, you can learn more the farther you get into it, and then they try to steal you. Then you know, you can learn a little bit more that way. But money doesn't always talk, friends.
No.
At least in my life, it doesn't. So
For sure. Yeah. And kind of like steering away from the questions that you'd ask in the interview process just for a second. Sometimes people will reach out to you from other brokerages and they kind of will try to get you to come work for them. That's the whole thing with like they kind of want you more. You don't want to like switch brokerages just to switch brokerages.
Right.
And I also think that if you're newer and things aren't working out, even if you're a seasoned agent and things aren't working out for you, definitely reflect internally and see what kind of training and the things that you've got from the brokerage. Ask yourself, have you done those things? Is there anything else you can do? There's a lot of outside education that you could do before just jumping ship and switching brokerages, because it's like you said, sometimes they will make a lot of promises that will never come to fruition.
Right. The grass is not always greener.
Yeah, so sometimes it's hard, a hard pill to swallow, but sometimes it could just be yourself. You could just be not doing the things that you're supposed to be doing. So make sure that you look into that before just jumping over to a new one.
Absolutely. You know, and to that point too, you know, it could be unwritten rules until you get into the situations, but each broker or brokerage may have different expectations of you as well. I mean, of course, being the star of your own show and running your business the way you see fit, but maybe there are some brokerages that expect a certain amount of production. You know, you have to close 4 deals a month or this much in volume per se. I can't speak to that because, again, I've only ever worked here at Think Hallmark, and like Marissa, I have no intentions on going anywhere. But, you know, those are conversations that I personally, if I was interviewing, knowing what we know now, I would be asking because, again, sometimes the competitiveness of this career and in the market we're in, I mean, sometimes sales quotas could be tough to reach, just depending on what's going on in your circle. So
Absolutely. I think that was one of my questions on there too, like just seeing if there's any certain number of sales, any dollar amount that you're expected to hit, if it's monthly, yearly, anything like that. I mean, it might be a good fit for you, but to be honest, I don't think that's a good fit for anyone. It just adds a lot of pressure, especially if you're new. I think if you're established, it might be something that you can handle. But especially if you're new, it's going to be tough for the first couple of years. So to have that extra pressure on you with all this other outside pressure that you already have can be a little too much.
Right. Well, and as an independent business owner, there's a risk to that as well, because as a licensed real estate agent, you need the supervision of a broker in order to even practice your business.
Right. So
say you're in a situation where you're not meeting that broker's what I require of you goal kind of a thing, and all of a sudden you get dropped. Now you can't even practice real estate because your broker just dropped you for not meeting what they expect from you.
Yeah.
So it's a risk.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I went to Google a lot for these questions before I knew what kind of questions you should be asking. So that's another thing you could do. I mean, you can watch videos like this, but I think the more you know before you commit and really get yourself into something, the better.
Absolutely.
So don't be afraid to ask a million questions. The other thing I have is their ability to cap out. That's another question you could ask. Here it is. Am I required to do a certain number of transactions per year?
What is cap out?
Okay, so capping out, I don't know if it means anything anywhere else. I'm pretty sure not. I think it's the same across the board. But I think this can be a certain number of transactions. It could be a dollar amount. It could be how much you've given to the brokerage. But usually after that point, you get to keep 100% of your commissions. So it can vary, obviously, from different brokerages because they will choose what their own parameters are. But that's another thing that you could ask. And just like the timeline of everything, like does it go from January to December? Is it like from when you started to that point? Like just figuring out really as much as you can beforehand.
Yep.
Can I work part-time while I'm here? Because we both started out that way.
That's big.
That is huge. Like I was saying earlier, there are a lot of other outside stresses that you will have as a new agent in particular. And I think just lessening that financial piece with having a part-time job and a supplemental income was really, really big. So when I interviewed here, Kevin was like, if you want to keep your part-time job, if you want to keep your full-time job, I have no issues with that. Some companies, I don't know if they're going to be like this, but you definitely want to ask if they're going to allow you to work part-time, if you can have a full-time job and do real estate part-time. Just kind of figuring out what they expect of you.
And I can speak to that a little bit because in all transparency, I did interview with other brokerages before I ultimately landed with Think Hallmark. And that was one of the big things because I was working full-time 8 to 5, Monday through Friday, and basically was told, you can't do real estate part-time. At least not here, you can't. And, to your point, and then I had an amazing conversation with Kevin and his words exactly where I want to do it however you want to do it. And so right then and there, I knew it was the right fit for me.
Exactly.
So, and here we are 2 short years later, and this is my full-time thing now. So
Yeah, same. Yeah, that's kind of, I feel like when I said that I don't do well with tough love, that kind of reminds me of that whole scenario where it's like, I want you here, like in any way you can be here and I want to help you do it. And then look at us now, we don't do real estate part-time anymore. So everything all works out, but I think just having that person who's supporting you through it, they know that you're going to get there eventually.
Yeah.
But being willing to take that chance on you is really, really huge.
Absolutely. And that's where I suffered in the beginning was the defeat of being told, well, that's not going to work for us. You can't do this part-time. You can't do this. Well, don't tell me I can't because watch me.
Yeah, because I can. And now they want you.
Yeah, right, exactly. One of those brokerages has called me. So, too late.
Yep.
You had your chance.
Next question is, are there any training or mentoring options, and is there a cost? Honestly, it's kind of hard to talk about some of these things because we do really only have like the experience of Think Hallmark. But personally, Kevin would have us pay for this training. We only did 100 Days to Greatness so far from Brian Buffini, and he had us pay for that up front, but then we were reimbursed over our next, I think it was 3 closings, maybe 4.
Yeah, 3 or 4.
So it was just to get some skin in the game, make sure that we were actually excited about showing up and, that we actually had paid for it. We were willing to learn, but then we eventually did get it all back once we had put the work in. Some brokerages will probably make you pay upfront and they won't reimburse you. Sometimes they won't offer really anything. So definitely got to figure that out.
Right. And that's one of the things too that I can't express enough, the appreciation for. Yeah, there's an upfront cost, but then you turn around and take what you learned and use that as an investment, and by doing the work through what you've just learned, then it does come back to you. So in essence, maybe there's an upfront cost, but at least we have the gratitude to be reimbursed for making that investment in our business and in contributing to the brokerage as well. So I think that's huge.
My next thing, we can go off on a tangent about this.
I love a good tangent.
Do you provide leads? So this was something that I asked initially. And they kind of said, like, we don't have a lot of internet leads, like you'll get leads through the website and stuff, but there's not someone like sitting on the phone, like finding leads for all of our agents.
Yep.
At first, that kind of scared me. And I was like, oh, that's a downside. As a new agent coming in, you're like, oh, I kind of like, the uncertainty makes me a little worried. Not that you want things like handed to you, but it's more of a guarantee. So at first I was like, oh no, really? But actually I think it's worked out for the best. So don't be, attracted to that kind of like shiny thing, I guess I would say. Like if they're like, yeah, we provide leads. Because sometimes they might, and they might also offer you training and mentoring, and it might be a great fit. But sometimes they'll just give you the leads and not tell you what to do with them or how to get them yourself. And then you're kind of just dependent on them. And all of the leads that come through, you're not going to know how to generate your own business, which is really an awful feeling.
Yeah. Well, and to that point too, if you're just spinning provided leads, and one thing that you'd want to ask in follow up to, do you provide leads? Well, then yes, if so, how much do I have to pay for those once that closes? I've heard, of pretty large splits. So it's an awful lot of work to sometimes walk away with not as much for what you would have done in any other transaction that you found on your own. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think I have
great gap fillers, maybe.
Yeah. I don't think I have this on here, and neither of us can speak to it really, but there is another option to work within a team at a brokerage, and so that's also something to be aware of. It might be a good fit for you. You just have to see, honestly, because personally I don't think it would be a good fit for myself, but I know that other people have had luck with it. It's just one of those things where they are going to take a chunk of your money at the end of it, but you might be provided with some more leads that come through this main team lead. I know that some people really, really encourage it and some people discourage it, so just kind of decide what's right for you. It might even be helpful to write down a list of what's important to you before you go and interview these people, and then afterwards look at that list again and be like, what are my non-negotiables? Like, what am I not willing to negotiate on? And what did I say before? Like, am I getting distracted by the shiny things or no?
It's keeping track of, what you find is going to give you the best return, because again, ultimately you're your own business owner, and you need to get out of it as much as you're going to put into it. So return on investment, I should say.
Yeah. This kind of goes along with something we already talked about. What services or benefits do you offer to your agents? Yes, that could be like, how many times are we featured on social media? Is there a website that comes with? I know we got like a whole sheet of what was included in our office fee, what's included when you start. We kind of knew all that up front.
It's definitely helpful, because if you have, if you're lucky enough to have to make a choice between several offers, then again, you're going to want to be able to analyze, what's going to give you the biggest bang for your buck. And at the same time, being able to choose the emotional side of it too, like how you felt, because that's important too.
What would you say the company culture is, or what does this company value? I think also you can talk to other agents within the brokerage. I think something even more powerful, not that it's like, you know, gossip central, but like asking other agents outside of that brokerage sometimes can be better. And the more you work with different people throughout your career, you're going to find like which ones are the professional brokerages, which ones don't have their stuff together. There's definitely some that I've worked with in the past where I'm like, I would never go there, never in a million years. And then there's some that I'm like, oh wow, they have a really great support staff there. They've really taught their agents well. For new people, I would say talk to other people. But if you're more experienced, just try to keep track of maybe who's wronged you, where they came from, and if there's any correlation, if it happens more than once with different agents, just keep track of the culture. Maybe see if you can come into a couple office meetings or come and shadow someone and just see kind of what it's like before you fully commit.
Absolutely. And I would say to that too, like any brokerages that offer you that opportunity to come in and try before you buy, if you will.
Yeah.
I think that would speak volumes to the actual culture that they have.
Yeah.
You know, if
hide.
they are genuine in the fact that they want to see you succeed as much as, of course, you want yourself to, then I think that would speak volumes. If they give you any type of, you know, we'll come and hang out for a day or, you know, things like that.
Absolutely. All right. How often do you hold office meetings, and are they mandatory? So you're definitely going to want to know the schedule of the office meetings. Sometimes they can be once a month. They could be twice a month. They could be every single week. And then just knowing if they're absolutely mandatory. I guess that's another thing kind of with working full-time or part-time and doing real estate. Sometimes it can get a little tricky to make it to the office meetings. For Think Hallmark, at least, we can join in on Zoom or something if we're on the go. Yeah, flexibility is huge. I still show up to like every single thing unless I'm sick or like there's something super important over the top of it. But for the most part, it's just one of those things where it's like, if it's more kind of like laid back and it's like, come if you want, then I'll be there. If they're like, you need to come for sure, it's mandatory, then it's like, it's like, it kind of goes along with that tough love thing. Like it makes you want to do it more, I think, when they're not mandatory.
When you have the freedom to choose, for sure.
Absolutely.
It's nice to feel like a grown-up.
Yes, a full-fledged adult.
Yes.
Okay, so along with office meetings, we have, are there times where agents are required to be in the office? This is another huge thing for me personally because I always wanted to work from home and have that flexibility and be treated like an adult. And so when I came in here and Kevin was like, no, like you have your own home office, you come in and use this office when you need to, but you're not required to be here. I was like, yes, that's awesome. So, and just, I mean, honestly, if you're doing your job, you're not going to be at the office anyway. You're going to be out and about. And I think it's really important to kind of like let yourself get inspired as well and let your brain have a break sometimes too. So like in the mornings, I really like to just work at home. But sometimes you can go to a coffee shop, you can go to the library, you can come here. You can work wherever you want. This job is interesting because it's not work from home. It's like work wherever.
Yeah, wherever you happen to be.
Work from someone else's home. Work from a laptop.
Yep.
So yeah, that's another thing. If it's important to you, even if it's not, I think it's still important to ask. What do you do to help promote listings or the agents? When I came in, like we were just kind of doing them on social media. They were on the website as well. We're doing more stuff now for promotion of the listings. And I think honestly, we're about to do more in 2023 than most brokerages will do for you. A lot of this stuff, like you'll have to pay for on your own. Like if you want photography or videography or anything like that, we have a lot of skilled people, fortunately, at Think Hallmark who can kind of band together and create like some cool stuff. So I think that will be really fun.
Kind of ties the loose end on, again, the feel, you know, the environment that you're in and the people that you're around and the collaboration people are willing to put in because, again, you might be on your own, but also sometimes it takes a village and, you know, putting your minds together or creating things together or coming together to share, you know, different strategies and ideas and maybe even just vent. That's huge. You got to be able to trust and feel comfortable with the people that you are around as you run your business out there.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really good point.
Absolutely. And kind of with that, I think that although you are an independent agent, you still are working alongside these people. And so, you know, if there's just horrible people at your office, even if you're working alone, to not feel like you have someone to talk to can be really tough. So having like those people at the office, like whenever something goes awry and I text Ryan, I'm like, oh my God, guess what just happened? Like,
sorry for venting. Vent away.
it's just so nice to have someone like that. And I appreciate you.
You as well. I mean, I'm learning a lot about what you're doing by creating videos, you know?
Oh, thanks.
And technology. You should see the tools and toys she's got coming up.
So many gadgets.
I know. Over my head.
Yeah, I mean, there's people that you're going to like, there's people that you're not going to like, and you just kind of have to be able to separate yourself from them. But I think if the people that you don't get along with outweigh the good, then it might be time to switch just for that reason. It's kind of like we said earlier, like your business will still be your business because of you. Like you're really driving the train, the bus, whatever you want to drive.
Yeah.
But you're really doing it yourself, but it is important to have people alongside who are supporting you.
Absolutely.
Good to be around. This is totally a corporate question, and I don't even remember what Kevin's answer was when I asked this. But what is the best and the most challenging thing about working here? So this kind of forces them to maybe spill some secrets about what they think might be a weakness in their own office. Also, along with that, like what are the long-term goals of the brokerage? So just figuring out like kind of what they have in mind for everything, for their agents, for the future. Knowing that they have a plan is pretty important, because if they don't have a plan, what do they say? Like, if you don't have a plan, you plan to fail or something like that. Last question is just your classic, anything else that I should know about? Anything else you can tell me?
I think, you know, especially, you know, most of the time you're going to feel like you're going in blind. And I think you made this point earlier. I think it's going to be reaching out to people that you already know that are in real estate. A, for advice, B, for hints and tips, but even more importantly, maybe a foot in the door too, because sometimes it's about who you know. Sometimes it's all about, again, you know, you just putting your best foot forward and putting anxiety out of the way and making that leap of faith. Again, you're going to be the one that's making the approach, because when you're brand new, they don't know you're out there. So.
Yeah, exactly. And I think another thing is just to not be afraid to switch if you need to. You're not confined to this one brokerage forever. You can switch anytime you want. Just be aware that if you have listings, they're going to stay with the firm. So you kind of have to make sure that all of your things are closed before you move on to the next one. You have to kind of coordinate between the two and make sure there's no loose ends and everything's ready to go. If you don't like where you're at, you got to change it. For sure.
We'd probably love to have you here.
Yeah, we would love to have you here. This is actually an ad for Think Hallmark Real Estate.
Boom.
We're pretty cool here, so.
I like to think so.
Yeah, just not feeling any pressure too about interviewing different places, and just finding out as much as you can about it. Don't feel pressured to commit to someone, you know, the first time you meet them, and just say, hey, I'm interviewing other people and I'll get back to you. They should understand, and if they don't, then they're not the right fit.
It's a mindset switch for sure, because you go through these interviews and likely you're probably going to get multiple offers, and it's not, again, like committing to an employer, you know, where they make an offer and it's either take it or leave it. So you kind of got a lot more leverage to make the right decision for yourself, which is really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. That made me so much less nervous about coming in when it was like, you're choosing them, remember? So those are some of the biggest things. I think talk to other agents, have kind of a mentor and a friend, and remember that you're choosing them. Find out anything you want to know and more.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on your next YouTube episode.
Thank you. We should almost like make this a series at this point. Chit chats with Ryan.
Oh, I like that.
I like it.
Fireside chats.
Fireside. Oh my gosh, you ever heard of like city bonfires?
Oh yeah, they're like the little ones in the can. I've just been seeing those on Instagram, actually.
We'll get a city bonfire.
It's like you got these two guys who are like, we're two dads. We created the city bonfire, and it's actually pretty fascinating.
Yeah.
I'm like, You can heat food with those. No, it's different. It's a neat concept, actually.
This is an ad for
Yeah, it's like now we're plugging bonfires in a can, so cool.
All right. Well, thank you for joining me and talking about this. I definitely wanted someone's advice who had spoke to different brokerages before and had a really fun time talking with you last time.
You as well. And anybody that's watching this and is contemplating, reach out to Marissa or reach out to me before you go out there and start talking to all these other places. We'd love to share our firsthand experiences with you and hopefully help you make the best decision for yourself.
Would love to help. You can reach out to Ryan or me. I will put our information in the description. And that's about all we have for you. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Take care.
That's pretty similar.
I wouldn't know the difference.